Hello, comic dudes. You remember how terrible my haircut was in that inflatable tube man episode? Well, guess what? It's back, if you couldn't tell already. Oh my god, I hate this haircut. Also, don't be worried about what happened in the last episode. Thankfully, that was happening in the Kirby series, meaning I'm completely I guess, I don't really know what happened to that guy. I guess injured? I don't know. I'm safe is what I'm trying to say. He's donezo, I'm okay-zo. Today's the day I ended up hitting a brick wall in terms of episode ideas, so I decided to turn to a cheap copy. A cheap copy of everyone's favorite game, Secular Chick.
That's right. Despite the love and admiration I have for Secular Chick, I realize that the best course of action is to cover its cheap copy to show my true devotion. That cheap copy being none other than Angry Birds.
This game is just a blatant copy of Angry Birds.
Angry Birds was a mobile game developed and released by Rovio in 2009. I say was, as the version of the game I'm covering today has been delisted from the App Store, which was definitely a decision Rovio could have made.
We hate money.
Because Angry Birds has always held a sort of special place in my heart, I'll be making this a series of episodes where I cover my 5 favorite Angry Birds games that have been released over the course of the 2010s. Today I'll also be bundling in Angry Birds Seasons and Rio 1+2, as I see these as basically just extensions of the base game, if anything. And these tend to be bundled together anyways, so I don't feel too bad about this decision. Also, don't forget that mobile game score where I rate the game out of 10 and then put it on the site. Whoa.
The Secular Chick venture will be marked as the prologue to this series, and I might even make an epilogue featuring all the games I don't cover, if I feel like it. Anyways, let's just get straight into the bird-flinging action.
Opening the app after lawfully downloading it, you get to bear witness to one of the most iconic title screens of not only mobile gaming, but also gaming as a whole. Now, I have a secret. I love birds, and personally, I've always wanted to know what they'd be like if they were angrier.
I don't have to worry anymore. Don't go to Canada.
Thankfully, this game can satisfy this need of mine. Meet the slingshot. This is your only method of control throughout the entire game. Dragging on this thing will cause whatever bird that's up to be shot into the battlefield. The main goal of the game is to use the birds to break down the structures keeping you between the pigs and your family. Oh, and I forgot to mention that the pigs stole your family. Just pretend I did. Anyway, structures can be built from miscellaneous materials, varying in durability from as breakable as glass to as solid as stone, and whatever the heck this is. I never really saw a need to not go full force with the slingshot, as there was never really a need to do a softer shot, but I digress. There are also TNT blocks in most levels which when hit usually are the fastest way to end a level, so it's usually best to target those.
So wait, if the pigs have the gunpowder to make the TNT, then who's the China equivalent in this situation? Perhaps a Wei Boyoink discovered gunpowder in China in the year something something.
The pigs you are aiming for will come in all shapes and sizes, and range and durability, and in some worlds they even change to match their environment, which is really nice, as they could have all just been the same pig over and over. In terms of completion, depending on how many points you get in a level, you can get stars, with 3 being the max for a level. Getting 3 stars on every level in a given world probably gives you an award, but I suck too much at the game to find out. There are also these feather things that you can get on every single level that depends on how well you can use the mighty bird, who I will cover soon. The game has special collectibles in the form of golden eggs, which are scattered across the game and levels. One of these is hidden at the end of the credits, making this the first game to actually make me want to check the credits. The game is extremely simple in its interface as well as its gameplay. The game barely has any tutorials and barely babies you at any point to add on to that, because shockingly, the devs wanted you to actually think while playing their puzzle game.
So that's what we've been doing wrong.
The gameplay being so simple that my 2-year-old nephew was able to grasp the controls. There are different birds that have different abilities that can make levels play out differently, so here I'll be covering all of them really fast. Red the Cardinal is the definition of cannon fodder. He becomes irrelevant the second you get anyone else. The most he could do for me was destroy just one wood block that got on my nerve. There's also another form of red that just spins. I don't know, he's just red if he didn't suck. The blues. These guys are extremely weak but make up for that by being a scatter shot. These guys are super effective against glass but super sucky at anything important you need broken. But if you want a shot more akin to Red's shot, then just shoot them at anything you want, and then the split second right before they hit their target, use their ability. Chuck the Woodpecker is one of my favorite birds to use. Basically, when he's fired, he's just a normal red, but when you activate his bird power, he will speed up and hit his target at a a much higher velocity, allowing him to break most anything in his path easily. And because when this guy speeds up, his drop-off decreases, he's easily one of the best birds for precision. I really like shooting him directly up into the sky and then shooting him directly downwards. I call this... I don't have a term for this one, actually. Bomb explodes. He will explode on his own or when you decide. Do not underestimate the boom. Zappy bomb explodes and zaps. There's an entire world dedicated to this OP character. He's so OP that he's a paid power-up. Matilda the chicken is like carpet bombing if it was less of a war crime. Basically, when used, she will drop an explosive egg on the ground below and fly away. This is pretty useful and all, but a secret utility no one knows about hides beneath the surface. If there's a situation like this where you want to hit both targets, you can actually use the flying away Matilda does to your advantage to ricochet her and take out both targets. Terrence the Fat Cardinal is like Heavy from TF2, huge damage output, but very slow. He can crash through near anything, but that's if you can even get him to reach the enemy. Pro tip, use the growth power-up on this guy for hilarious results. Also, this is canonically the only bird to have killed someone. HAL the Toucan sucks, I hate this guy. I can never master his stupid boomerang trajectory and I'm tired of it. The only thing I want to say about this guy is if you fire him backwards, he's just a stronger Chuck with harder controls. Bubbles, the bubble, is a little guy when shot. He can go through a few blocks, but that's nothing special. However, a few seconds after he lands, or whenever you choose, he will blow up like a balloon, disrupting anything in its vicinity. And after a second or so, he will then deflate and fly around, even possibly hitting stuff in his path. Stella the pink bird is pretty weird, but is also pretty bad to compensate. When fired, she will put all nearby materials into bubbles, lift said items into the air, and then after a second or so, will drop all of these items onto the ground below. I thought this power-up was pretty lame, but they did do it better in Angry Birds Star Wars 2.
Don't they always?
Mighty Eagle the Eagle. When you use this guy, all of your birds will disappear and will be replaced by a can of tuna, and when you shoot this can of tuna, it will wipe the entire screen of all pigs. Depending on how well you shoot your Mighty Eagle, your feather score of the level will be calculated. Get a perfect score and you'll get a gold feather on the level, which is cool. Get all gold feathers and I don't really know, same thing as before, I'm not good enough for this. Each of the worlds here are different and special in their own way, so here's a quick synopsis of them all. Poached Eggs is a tutorial world, more so than the tutorial world was. In fact, I'd even call it easier. Mighty Hoax is just poached eggs to the power of 1. The same number. Flock favorites, it's what you think it is. Danger Above is just a bunch of HAL stuff, aka who the heck cares? Short Fuse is the coolest world, but one of the easiest ones, mainly starring our boy Electro Bomb. The big setup is fun, being a solo HAL and Terrence mission makes it really interesting in that regard. Amum High is like just a desert level. Cool. Mine and Dine is like Minecraft. Surf and Turf is pretty chill. I love beach levels in any setting in all fairness though. Bad Piggies is just that one game of the same title but from the perspective of the birds. Piggy Farm is a farm level, but I thought it was pretty chill, same as Surf and Turf. Jurassic Pork is cool and all, but I hate this perpetual alert above it. Bird Island is just the Angry Birds movie world, nothing to see here. Bird Day Party. Bird Day. Red's Mighty Feathers is Bad Piggies meets a red that isn't useless. Truly breathtaking. And lastly, Golden Eggs is a world where you can play the levels you've earned from the golden eggs. You can pay for stuff in this game, but it's not obtrusive, neither are the ads. This may seem unimportant, but when you've taken into consideration any modern mobile game, it's a blessing. The OST in this game is beyond iconic, and I think it fits this game near perfectly. And the fact that most people play this game out in public without sound on goes to show how much work Rovio put into this game for an optional feature. The sound design is also near perfect with the sound of the pigs and birds in the level adding to the mood of every level you play, but that's just enough gushing, okay? That's enough gushing. I am not a gusher. This game would go on to be downloaded more than 2 billion times and become a cultural phenomenon. The entire world knew this little red bird, and the merchandising gods were going to let their voices be heard. Things like lunchboxes, tons of plushies, laser chuck costume, gummies, and even a theme park in Finland? Why do they get it and not me? In fact, a large portion of my use was based around watching reviews of these toys and merchandise, mainly from my man, EvanTubeHD. Real Chad right there. I'm about to get racist. This guy's a legend.
This game is the pinnacle of mobile gaming in the 2010s, and I just can't think of a single thing this game does wrong for what it is. It does what it wanted to accomplish, and it does it well. So take this 8 out of 10 on the mobile gaming score and cherish it, Angry Birds. You cherish it. And with all that, it's time to record the outro. Alright, next up we're going to be covering both Rio 1 and 2 and also Angry Birds Seasons. Because if the DS bundles these together, then I can too.
This game is not exactly a sequel as much as it is a sidequel. For one, it's not labeled as a sequel, and second, when the game released, Angry Birds was still getting updates and new levels. This game would continue to keep getting new worlds and levels all the way to 2016, which shows how much time and care Rovio put into this game to celebrate the holidays and birds they are about. And I'm sure that if people pestered Rovio enough, they could even add new levels for future years and holidays, but that seems unlikely. The Twitter account only listens to people talking about unfunny memes, nothing about their actual games. I love this game to bits. All the levels are themed around something really specific most of the time, but that doesn't matter to me. They all make these themes fun and engaging. My favorite by far is Pig Days, because every single level is a different obscure holiday. Close follow-up world is the one about Finland, because Finland's my favorite holiday. This game may have not added too much to the base game mechanics-wise or anything, but honestly, I think that this game is a perfect way to continue the legacy of Angry Birds.
Okay gang, 8 out of 10. It's time to finish this. Rio. Isn't that the movie about the bird that lives in Rio?
Okay, we are not going into Angry Birds Rio scripted, because I don't care about Angry Birds Rio enough. I just don't. Angry Birds Rio, 1 and 2, there's new characters in the form of, like, these birds guys. Instead of, like, killing pigs, you gotta kill, like, these monkeys, and you also gotta, like, free these birds from these cages, which is actually a pretty cool idea. I do like the idea of freeing them from cages, but point is, I think this one was pretty lame. It's just, no, I see the appeal. I see it, and I'm like, hey, this is actually a really good-looking game. It looks like it has, like, the same amount of quality as the other ones. It's just, like, Rio, as a movie, just doesn't really feel like it doesn't feel like an interesting concept to be put into an Angry Birds game, because, like, I don't know, they just don't fit in the world. Like, none of the birds have feet. Okay, I said it, they don't have feet, okay? Birds have feet. Angry Birds don't have feet. Rio birds have feet.
The main reason I bundled these 4 games together is because these 4 really encapture the early years of the Angry Birds franchise the most out of any of the games I'm planning to be covering in this series. The other games have the same amount of magic and polish and are also just as great, but these sort of have a more, I guess, charming feel to them because they're a lot more, like, simplistic than the later entries we're going to be talking about. But for this game's magic, Lightning Magic 7.5! Well, I've done it. I've gone over the first 4 Angry Birds that I wanted to cover, all in one episode. Now I'm going to see if anyone's selling 10-year-old Angry Birds space gummies on eBay. What's going on?